Hello Duggar Nation, and welcome back to the channel. Get ready, because the day we have all been waiting for is finally here. If you've been following Jessa Duggar Seewald's journey, you know that this pregnancy has been one filled with hope, anticipation, and a whole lot of emotion. And just moments ago, the news we've all been on the edge of our seats for has finally dropped. That's right, Jessa Duggar's water has broken. The Seewald family is officially on baby watch. Ben and Jessa are on their way to the hospital to welcome their sixth child into the world, expanding their beautiful family to a bustling party of 8. 4 months, we followed along as Jessa has shared her pregnancy updates, her hopes for this little one, and her reflections on her journey of motherhood. This isn't just any birth. This is the arrival of her precious rainbow baby, a symbol of hope after a heartbreaking loss. It's a culmination of years of growth, change, and a dramatic shift in how she approaches one of the most significant moments of her life, childbirth. So today, as we wait for the official announcement of the baby's arrival, we're going to do a deep dive into the entire story. We're going to look back at the emotional journey to this pregnancy, revisit every single one of Jessa's 5 previous birth stories, from the traumatic home births to the game-changing hospital births, and analyze what the arrival of baby number 6 means for Jessa, her family, and her place within the ever-evolving Duggar dynasty. Grab your coffee, settle in, because this is the complete story of Jessa Duggar's road to baby number 6. It's happening, you guys. Let's get into it. Part 1. The Rainbow After the Storm, the journey to baby number 6. To truly understand the joy and significance of this moment, we have to go back to the end of 2022. The Seewalds, already a happy family of 7, discovered they were expecting their 6th child. They were overjoyed, but chose to keep the news private, planning a big reveal for their family during the holidays. Jessa, we were so excited. We had a name picked out and everything. We were just getting ready to announce to the family, and I had some spotting. As Jessa detailed in a raw and vulnerable YouTube video, that initial joy turned to concern. An ultrasound revealed the devastating news: the baby had tragically passed away. The heartbreak was compounded by the fact that Jessa had to undergo a D&C procedure to remove the tissue, a process that was emotionally and physically taxing. In her video, she spoke with incredible grace about her grief, her faith, and the pain of losing a child she had already loved so deeply. For many viewers, it was one of the most raw and relatable moments Jessa had ever shared. It transcended the Duggar world and spoke to a universal experience of loss that affects so many. She named the baby she lost, cementing their place in her heart and family forever. This wasn't just a pregnancy loss, it was the loss of a person. This profound sadness is what makes the current moment so incredibly sweet. In September 2023, Jessa and Ben took to YouTube once again, this time with a video radiating pure joy. The title was simple: A Baby on the Way and a Home Update. In the video, Jessa announced that after their season of grief, God had blessed them with another child. This would be their rainbow baby, a term for a healthy baby born after a miscarriage, stillbirth, or infant loss. The announcement was met with an outpouring of love and support from fans who had grieved with them and were now celebrating with them. Throughout this pregnancy, Jessa has appeared more serene, more reflective than ever before. Her vlogs have documented the normalcies of pregnancy, the cravings, the exhaustion, the nesting instincts, but all underscored by a deep sense of gratitude. She's been open about her anxieties, which is understandable given her history, but also firm in her faith and her decision-making. And one of the biggest decisions, one that has defined her recent motherhood journey, is where she would be having this baby. For years, Jessa was a staunch advocate for home birth, following in the footsteps of her mother, Michelle. But as we're about to explore, her personal experiences have led her on a dramatically different path, a path that is now leading her right through the front doors of a hospital. To understand why this hospital birth is so significant, we need to rewind. We need to go back to the very beginning of her motherhood journey, to a story that started with idealism and ended in a life-threatening emergency. Part 2. The Birth Story Archives, A Traumatic Beginning. November 1st, 2015. After a highly publicized courtship and wedding, Jessa and Ben Seewald were about to welcome their first child. Steeped in Duggar tradition, there was no question about how this baby would be born. It would be at home, surrounded by family, with a midwife overseeing the natural process, just as Michelle had done so many times before. The couple was excited, idealistic, and fully committed to the home birth philosophy. Their firstborn, who they would later name Spurgeon Elliott Seewald, had other plans. Jessa's labor was not the quick, smooth experience she had hoped for. It was long, incredibly long. The hours ticked by, stretching into a grueling marathon. Contractions would start, intensify, and then peter out. For nearly 2 full days, 48 agonizing hours, Jessa labored at home. She tried everything, walking, rocking, resting in the tub, but progress was painfully slow. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Spurgeon was born. A healthy, beautiful baby boy weighing a solid 9 pounds, 11 ounces. There was a moment of pure relief and joy, but that relief was tragically short-lived. The cameras kept rolling as the situation took a terrifying turn. Jessa was bleeding. Heavily. "Michelle Duggar, we're gonna need you to call 911. We've got an emergency." The midwife and Michelle recognized the signs of a postpartum hemorrhage. Despite their best efforts at home, the bleeding wouldn't stop. The decision was made to call 911. What was supposed to be a serene home birth special suddenly became a real-life medical emergency documentary. Jessa, pale and weak, was carried out on a stretcher and rushed to the hospital, leaving her newborn son behind with Ben and her family. At the hospital, the severity of the situation became clear. Jessa had lost a significant amount of blood and required a blood transfusion to stabilize her condition. It was a harrowing, life-threatening experience that cast a dark shadow over what should have been one of the happiest days of her life. For Duggar watchers and critics, this event was a lightning rod for debate. It highlighted the very real risks of home birth, especially for first-time mothers with large babies, and raised questions about the family's ideology-driven approach to medical care. Was it responsible to attempt a home birth so far from a hospital? Had they waited too long to transfer? Despite the trauma, Jessa and the family publicly framed the experience as a testament to God's faithfulness. They were grateful for the medical intervention when it was needed, but it did not seem to shake their core belief in home birth. In fact, when it was time for their second child, they decided to do it all over again. February 6, 2017. Jessa was in labor with baby number 2. Once again, the plan was a home birth. Many fans were surprised, even concerned, given what happened with Spurgeon. But Jessa explained that she felt prepared and that her previous hemorrhage didn't automatically mean it would happen again. Unfortunately, Henry's birth story echoed his older brother's in an unsettling way. Another long labor, another baby who was slow to arrive, and once again, after Henry was born healthy, Jessa began to bleed excessively. This time, they didn't wait for an ambulance. Recognizing the familiar, terrifying symptoms, Ben drove Jessa to the hospital himself. She received medication to control the bleeding and, thankfully, did not require another transfusion. But the pattern was undeniable. 2 home births, 2 healthy babies, 2 postpartum hemorrhages requiring emergency hospital intervention. The narrative was shifting. Jessa was now 2 for 2 on high-risk deliveries. Her body, for whatever reason, struggled in the immediate aftermath of giving birth. The question was no longer if she was at risk, but how she would manage that risk in the future. The answer would come with baby number 3, in a birth story so dramatic and unexpected, it happened on the living room couch. Part 3. The Couch, the Shift, and the Hospital. May 26, 2019. Jessa and Ben were expecting their third child, their first daughter. Her due date was still a week or so away, and Jessa was feeling Braxton Hicks contractions, which she assumed were just more of the usual pre-labor warm-ups. She was so unconcerned, she sent Ben off to play video games with some friends. "Jessa, I'm having contractions, but they're not super intense. I don't know if this is a real thing or not, so I'm just gonna hang out and wait." But this was not false labor. Suddenly, things escalated. Rapidly. Jessa's contractions went from 0 to 100. She called Ben, her mother, and her midwife, telling them to come home immediately. This was happening, and it was happening now. But the baby was coming faster than anyone could get there. As Jessa lay on the couch, her water broke with an audible pop. The midwife was still en route. Ben was racing home. In that moment, her support system was her sisters. With a few powerful pushes, right there on the living room couch, Jessa delivered her daughter, Ivy Jane Seewald. It was a shocking, whirlwind delivery, a stark contrast to her previous marathon labors. But the familiar terror returned. Once again, the postpartum bleeding started and wouldn't stop. The midwife arrived and immediately recognized the danger. An ambulance was called, for the second time in 3 births. Jessa was once again rushed to the emergency room. 3 births, 3 postpartum hemorrhages, 3 emergency hospital transfers. The pattern was no longer a coincidence. It was a clear and present danger. This third ordeal seemed to be the breaking point. The romantic ideal of a peaceful home birth had, for Jessa, been consistently replaced by trauma and terror. Something had to change. And with her 4th pregnancy, it finally did. This was the video that marked a monumental shift in Jessa's story. In it, she announced that for her 4th baby, she would be having a planned hospital birth. She calmly and rationally explained her decision, acknowledging her history of hemorrhaging. Jessa, I've had 3 home births, 3 postpartum hemorrhages. I'm going to be having this baby in a hospital. And the main reason for that is that I'm high risk for postpartum hemorrhage. For the Duggar community, this was huge. It represented a departure from decades of family dogma. It was an admission that the idealized, one-size-fits-all approach to childbirth wasn't right for her. She was listening to her body and her medical history, not just to ideology. She was choosing safety over tradition. It was a sign of incredible growth and maturity. The birth of her 2nd daughter, Fern Eliana, in July 2021, was a world away from her previous experiences. The labor was long and difficult, and Jessa ultimately needed Pitocin to help it progress, and an epidural for the pain. 2 interventions that are anathema in the world of natural home birth. But the environment was controlled and safe. When Fern was born, and Jessa once again began to bleed heavily, a team of doctors and nurses was right there. They administered medication immediately. There was no panic, no frantic 911 call, no traumatic ambulance ride. There was just calm, competent medical care. The experience was transformative. Jessa had found a way to have a safe and positive birth experience. She had taken control of her own narrative. So, it was no surprise that when she became pregnant with her 5th child, George Augustine, there was no question about the plan. The birth of George in December 2023 was, in many ways, the most uneventful of all, and that was a huge victory. It was another planned, calm hospital birth, another epidural, another beautiful, healthy baby boy, and with medical staff on hand, her inevitable bleeding was managed without incident. Jessa had found her new normal. She had established a new tradition for her own growing family, one based on medical reality and prioritizing her own safety. This entire history, from the trauma of Spurgeon's birth to the peace of George's, is the context for what is happening right now. As Jessa and Ben head to the hospital to welcome baby number 6, they are doing so with the wisdom and experience of 5 previous births. They are walking into a controlled environment, surrounded by a medical team that knows her history. They have replaced idealism with pragmatism, and in doing so, have given themselves the gift of peace of mind. To fully grasp the significance of Jessa's journey, you have to understand the world she came from. The Duggar family's foundational beliefs are deeply rooted in the principles of the Institute in Basic Life Principles, or IBLP, and the associated Quiverful movement. The Quiverful philosophy promotes large families as a sign of obedience to God. It discourages the use of contraception and encourages couples to have as many children as possible. This belief system is the very reason Jim Bob and Michelle have 19 children. It's the cultural and religious water that Jessa and her siblings grew up swimming in. Within this framework, certain practices became hallmarks of a truly godly family: homeschooling, modest dress, and for many, natural home birth. Michelle Duggar became a poster child for successful home birthing. She delivered the majority of her 19 children at home, often with an air of peaceful tranquility that was broadcast to millions. This set an incredibly powerful precedent for her daughters. Home birth was presented as not just a choice, but the best and most natural choice. It was seen as trusting God with the process, whereas a hospital birth could be seen as relying on worldly, secular medicine and being subject to unnecessary interventions. Jessa's early birth experiences created a fascinating tension within this narrative. She was trying to live up to the family ideal, to replicate her mother's success, but her body simply reacted differently. Her story publicly challenged the unspoken assumption that if you just trust God enough, your home birth will be perfect. Her experiences show that biology and medical risk factors are real and cannot be prayed away. Her sister, Jill Dillard, had a similar journey. She, too, trained as a midwife and planned a home birth for her first son, Israel. Her labor also ended in an emergency C-section after more than 70 hours. Both Jessa and Jill's experiences represent a generational shift. They are part of a generation of Duggar women who have had to reconcile the teachings of their youth with the realities of their own bodies and modern medical science. Jessa's evolution is perhaps one of the most compelling arcs in the entire Duggar saga. We've watched her grow from a rule-following daughter on 19 kids and counting to a confident mother and influencer who is not afraid to break from family tradition when it matters most. While she remains deeply conservative in her faith and social values, her willingness to publicly choose a hospital birth for the sake of her health demonstrates a powerful streak of pragmatism and independence. She has managed to carve out her own identity, separate from the long shadow of her parents. This independence is also reflected in her parenting style. While she incorporates many elements of her own upbringing, like a focus on faith and character training, she also seems to embrace a more modern, relaxed approach. Her home is often shown in a state of chaotic, happy messiness, a far cry from the immaculately organized, well-oiled machine narrative of her childhood home. She's open about the challenges of motherhood, the toddler tantrums, and the endless laundry. In doing so, she has made herself far more relatable to the average millennial mom than her own mother ever was. She is, in essence, a Duggar for the influencer age. She has successfully monetized her family life on YouTube, sharing a curated but seemingly authentic version of her world, and her audience loves her for it. The arrival of baby number 6 solidifies her status. With 6 children, she now has one of the largest families among her siblings. She is no longer just one of the Duggar daughters. She is a matriarch in her own right, building her own dynasty on her own terms. Part 5. A family of 8 and a future of more. So, as we speak, Jessa is likely in a hospital room, working towards meeting her new little one. And while we wait for the big news, the fun part begins, the speculation. First up, boy or girl? The Seewalds currently have 3 boys, Spurgeon, Henry, and George, and 2 girls, Ivy and Fern. A girl would even the score perfectly at 3 and 3. A boy would officially make them a boy-heavy family. Jessa and Ben chose not to find out the gender ahead of time, so it will be a surprise for them and for all of us. And then there's the name. The Seewalds are known for their unique and meaningful names, often chosen to honor historical or religious figures. Spurgeon was named after the preacher Charles Spurgeon. Henry after Matthew Henry. Ivy Jane is just a beautiful classic name. Fern Eliana has a lovely, earthy feel. And George Augustine is named for the theologian Augustine of Hippo. So what's next? Fans have been guessing for months. For boys, names like Wesley, Lewis, or Calvin have been thrown around, continuing the theologian theme. For girls, perhaps something classic and floral like Willow or Hazel, or another name rooted in faith. Whatever they choose, you can be sure it will have a story behind it. Beyond the birth announcement, the bigger question is, what does life look like for a family of 8? The logistics alone are staggering. More laundry, more cooking, more noise, more joy, more chaos. It will be an adjustment for everyone, especially for the older children who will have a new baby to dote on. We'll likely see Spurgeon, as the oldest, step into more of a little helper role, a callback to the Duggar buddy system, but likely in a more relaxed, modern way. And of course, there's the question that always follows a Duggar birth. Will there be more? Jessa is still young. Given the quiverful belief system she was raised in, it's highly probable that baby number 6 will not be her last. Will they aim for an even dozen, or will they stop sooner? Only time will tell. But for now, their focus is singular, this precious new life. Conclusion, a new chapter. Jessa Duggar Seewald's journey through motherhood has been a public saga of growth, pain, and profound change. We've watched her navigate the treacherous waters between deeply ingrained family ideology and her own lived reality. She experienced the terror of high-risk home births and emerged with the wisdom to forge a safer path for herself and her children. She endured the silent heartbreak of a miscarriage and came through it with a deeper appreciation for the gift of life. Today, as she welcomes her 6th child, she is not the same idealistic young woman who planned her first home birth. She is a seasoned mother, a savvy content creator, and a woman who has learned to trust her own instincts. She has faced down trauma and emerged stronger, more pragmatic, and more relatable than ever. This baby, this tiny new Seewald, is not just another number in a growing clan. They are a symbol of hope, a testament to their mother's resilience, and the beginning of a brand new chapter for a family we have watched for over a decade. We're sending all our love and positive thoughts to Jessa, Ben, and their entire family during this special time. We wish her a safe, smooth delivery and a peaceful recovery. And you can be sure that the moment they post that first photo, the moment they announce that name, we will be right here to share it with all of you. What do you think they'll name the baby? Are you team boy or team girl? Let me know all your thoughts and well wishes in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss the official baby announcement update. Congratulations to the Seewald family.